Sagawa is the only cannibal killer, neither dead nor in prison. In 1986, after the French authorities decided Sagawa was unfit to stand trial, he was deported to Japan to a psychiatric hospital. But there was nothing in the deportation order to say he should remain under lock and key. 15 months later, Sagawa discharged himself.
We have, I think, some hint of abuse, neurologic abnormality, and psychiatric mental illness.
Sometimes I ask myself why I'm alive. I should be dead.
Do you know what he did?
No.
He cannibalized a Dutch girl over 5 days in Paris.
He actually did it?
But he had a fantasy to eat flesh.
And he was obsessed with the idea of it, and he finally couldn't control it. And he does have neurological, apparently, reasons for not being able to control it. His brain isn't working properly neurologically. And where is he now?
He's been released by the Japanese authorities. He's
What?
in Tokyo.
He's being released? Oh my God.
Describing himself as another dimensional being over on Vice's documentary Interview with a Cannibal, Sagawa goes far, blaming his actions on his uniqueness, but regret escapes him. He knows how wrong eating people is, yet his words are veiled by well-meant and heartfelt sentiment that appears as empty as he really considers himself to be, admitting no empathy towards a deliciously dead human being, despite him knowing hurt and pain from whence his parents passed away. Issei Sagawa was born with a mental illness, or underdevelopment, that, to be fair, is yet to be conclusively diagnosed or even healed. After murdering and eating a colleague while abroad in France, Sagawa was simply returned to Japan with a diagnosed and a mild consequence, but no crime. He still lives as a free man in Tokyo today, 40 years after killing and eating another human being, an obsession that began in his early youth. Once returned to Japan and faulty laws letting him loose on a living, breathing city of walking and talking meat, the country began holding him on a tight grip of media coverage, viewing him as an oddball, someone unable to feel or comprehend something as simple as respect and empathy towards another human being's worth. Strangely, what he considers an need to tell his story to the media is most likely just another way to appease his obsession, his desire, his need to be gazed. Are we only perhaps further feeding onto his obsession with every time his name is news? Is it a sugar pill that keeps him away from killing any further? Or has he killed thus far and we know not? Free, and with his life explored in every angle available, including pornographic material, Issei Sagawa remains a contemporary mystery. Having described himself as an alien or an interdimensional being from a cannibal race of beyond, Issei Sagawa was, to officials, born in Kobe, Japan, April 26, 1949. Despite most definitely being his mother's genetic son, he continues, and more so into his later life, to consider himself akin to a Superman-type creature, believing he's unique amongst us, another race altogether. He fancies to believe one spring day in the 40s, his mother must have picked him up from the street, bringing him home to have his brother and newfound family raised as an equal, but knowing since he could remember that he was distinctively different from the people around him, and not just physically. To him, thus his life began. That fabricated moment in his life and time is a way for Sagawa to distance himself from the crimes he committed and the consequences he never suffered. Renée, born 1955, was a Dutch student of French literature at Sorbonne, Paris, where she became a victim to Issei Sagawa's obsessive nature and cannibalistic needs. On June 11, 1981, Sagawa murdered her inside his apartment, located in Paris, where he lured her under the pretext of translating poems for him. As she sat on his desk, he reached for a hidden gun in his closet. Close, behind her, shooting him once in the back of the neck, Renée continued reading with a slurred speech as she fell front and then backwards into the floor, taking the chair with her.
多分もう一晩でも食事をルネとしていたら食べる対象には考えたことはない。
A lie. Looking sideways at a critical moment, Sagawa demonstrates his inability to feel empathy towards Renée's death. Although he seems to try harder and harder to do so, learning during the 40 years he's been living as a free public cannibalistic murderer of the 80s. Whilst his words and general attitude are dreamy, for him to dream is to prey, kill and consume another person as a way to satisfy his predatory needs, and most importantly for him, achieve sexual gratification that comes directly from consuming another human being's most attractive, to him, parts of their body. It is as though by consuming these attributes, he seeks to possess them himself, literally putting them inside him, using digestion as a magical process for nourishment of the soul as well as the body. It is desire and emotion connected to consuming another's body that separates Issei Sagawa's motives from the common cannibal, despite all showing actions of clear lack of empathy towards another living soul. This too, though, can be traced back to the moment of his birth and consequential childhood. Being no alien, he's simply a human full of a dangerously haywire Superman complex and human-eating obsessive desire. As an infant, he was born premature. From henceforth, he would continue growing, but always shorter, weaker, and a lot slender than most boys his age. To Sagawa, everyone else must have always looked taller, stronger, and more powerful than him. His brother, most prominently, whom shared none of his obsessive traits. Perhaps as a wish to possess those foreign qualities himself, his obsession with consuming perfect areas of another's body began, as if one could transform oneself or become one with the consumed flesh. Number 10, Rue Élargie, Paris. Issei Sagawa invites Renée to his apartment under a school-related pretext to which she amicably agrees. When she falls back, mouth aghast, eyes staring rather than seeing, dead still, Sagawa's desire is set loose. His love for her was shown the only way he knew how. Wanting to consume her was to love and be with her forever completely. Dreams of eating her flesh haunting him since he had first seen her, entranced by her foreign good looks. There's no other way to get a beautiful girl's fresh meat unless you kill her. I didn't want to kill her, but that's why I did it, says Issei Sagawa. Dazed from seeing Renée dying in front of him, it took him a while to reassess himself, upon which he left his apartment to buy knives, sharp enough to pierce her skin. Previously, enchanted by her bottom, he attempted to bite into it, but hurt his jaw, hence the knives and supplies he purchased, so he could better access, select, and consume her flesh. He began with her aforementioned body part, but found it jelly-like, corn-colored. It was fat, and he was disappointed that he couldn't eat. Digging further, he sectioned the flesh from her legs, torso, genitals, and one of the breasts, but that too he found unedible. When he realized he had to dispose of what was left of Renée's corpse, that is when his problems began. Chopping her body into small enough parts, he filled 2 suitcases and called a cab to take him to a lake in Paris that he had become obsessed with, at Bois de Boulogne. The taxi driver denounced the strange passenger they had just delivered, but worse still, Sagawa barely managed to carry the bags himself, too early in the day and sunlight still bathing the nearest tourists. In no time, everyone stared at him as he made a figure of himself waiting for darkness and dragging Renée until he reached the water's edge. A man then approached him, and as he acted guiltily, even denying the bag was his, the other man opened the trunk to find a bloody mess inside, crying "Murder, murder," upon which Issei Sagawa took the opportunity to flee. Roughly 4 days later, Sagawa was arrested by French authorities, but sent back to Japan without a trial and quickly left the mental health facility he was in there due to his father's strong influence and wealth. France didn't want to spend money on Sagawa, and Japan probably had no clue to the extent of his crimes. It was the second time this happened, however, since after attempted rape in 1972 by Issei Sagawa and a payment from his father, all charges were removed and he walked free from the attempted rape and murder, as he later confessed, of a next-door foreign neighbor. After the incident, both parents decided to put Issei Sagawa under a psychiatric analysis. The doctor deemed their son extremely dangerous. 4 years later, Sagawa is sent to the exclusive college in Sorbonne, France, upon his parents' suggestion. A look of worry veiled his mother's face as they said their goodbyes at the airport. She was preoccupied by what her son would be capable to do abroad, onto others. Afar from his parents' gaze and sentiment, she was afraid of what others could suffer, and not whatever danger could befall her son instead. Whatever's left to say about him and his future, you can hear in his own voice over on Vice's interview with the cannibal. However, in order to even justify the making of this video you're watching, I'll play one last clip for you.
ただ今インポテンツになりましてマスターベーションができなくなりました。僕は大変不安に思っています。カニバリズムの妄想が高まったように今もマスターベーションで抑えることができなくなるとそういう変な妄想が再び姿を現してしまうのではないかという恐れにおののいています。
As always, thank you for watching our videos, and don't forget to like, subscribe. We post every Friday, so if you click the bell, you might enjoy early notifications for those.